All right, Junkie Nation, it's Goze. I'm here with UFC featherweight Billy Quarantillo. He's facing Edson Barboza, UFC Fight Night, Alan Holloway. We don't know too many of the details here, but we're gonna talk to Billy here. Billy, congratulations on your last win, dude. Epic fight, man. We were going nuts watching it.
Thank you, man. Thank you again for having me. It's always great talking to you. We're missing gorgeous George, but
Hmm.
well, the show goes on, and yeah, thank you. It was, I've come a long way. I try to look back and uh, remember how far we've actually come, and to get a win over Alex Hernandez. And now to be in a position to fight Edson Barboza, it's really cool just to kind of look back and see how far that I've actually made it.
Dude, so Billy, the last fight, you went through hell, man. But and I know that's not part of the game plan, but at the same time, is it kind of like a little bucket list thing to knock off that you can always say this was my battle, my war here that you could always go back and look at?
Yeah, especially with getting the win. Obviously, I still want to go back and look at all the mistakes that I made. Definitely made a few big ones in the first round, but to be able to go through it, that's the worst I've ever been cut in a fight. You can still see the scar like right here, right above my
Oh yeah.
eyebrow. It's probably not going to go away, probably ever. I'll always remember Alexander Hernandez for that. But yeah, I can look at this and think about like what you did when things got kind of sketchy, things going through adversity, things that I can show my son one day. No matter what happens, you can dig deep and still get the results you came for, as long as you keep believing in yourself and not giving up.
What were your thoughts when you received the cut? It's obviously nothing that you can prepare for in camp or anything like that. It came from a pretty nasty elbow, and it looked like it could start impairing your vision a little bit. What were your thoughts when it first happened?
Yeah, my thoughts were right away. I could feel it. So he was on top of me, which was even funnier. I'll take you back to right before he actually got the takedown and ended up giving me this big cut right here. Uh, I was in a point in the fight where I was like, "Oh man, I'm busting him up. I'm doing a good job working my jab." His eye was all busted up, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna start taking over right now." Then I missed on that huge right hand. He ended up taking me down, almost putting me in a head arm choke. Then he lands that huge elbow, and I'm like, "Oh no, this isn't good. This isn't how I wanted it to go." And I was just thinking, oh man, I could feel like the warm blood, and it was super. I could tell there was a lot of blood there. Of course, I don't get to see how bad it was, or if it was just one cut or multiple cuts or what happened. And then I heard the 10-second mark. I was just getting up, and I thought, okay, you better land some big shots right here because the ref might stop this fight in between rounds. And so if you watch the replay, I throw the hardest punches I can throw to end the round one, because I'm thinking, okay, hopefully the ref doesn't stop this and maybe you can get a finish right here. Obviously, I didn't get the finish right then, but I was like, oh man, hopefully the Stitch guy could put it back together. But at that moment, it was like, all right, now you really got to dig deep and go get this win, and hopefully that they don't stop it, because I knew it was out of my hands at that point, whether they stopped it or not.
That's something that you just can't train, right? Like the situation that you were in. Did you ever have any different thoughts pop into your head? I know you're a father now. Does that ever pop into your mind at all during the fight?
Yeah, it did actually. So I wasn't thinking of my son like while I was fighting, because obviously there's a lot going on. But in between rounds, my head coach Matt Arroyo, he always asked me like math questions and like just little questions to make sure I'm in my cortex and I'm using my brain. And he mentioned, he goes, when's your son's birthday? And when he said that, then I really like kind of dug deep and made me think of my son right away. And all at once, I kind of had flashes of all the reasons why I needed to go out there and win that fight. My son being the main reason, and my future and his future. So that was the one point that like he made me kind of think about him, whereas I was just really focused on winning and focusing on the technical part of the fight.
So what I liked was after the fight, you had Joe Rogan there, and we often tell fighters about how important that moment is, right?
Yep.
Ask and you shall receive. You said you want to be on that main card, and it looks like that's what's going to happen here. You didn't give the opponent, but I know this is a guy that you've thought about in the past. Edson Barboza, he's coming up for you, and I believe it will be on the main card. It'd be an absolute shame if it wasn't. Tell us about the importance of kind of putting that out there and the respect that the UFC has shown you by giving you what you want.
Yeah, well, so if for those who don't know, I've been on several main cards already. You know, the Spike Carlisle fight was on the main card. The Kyle Nelson fight was on the main card. There was the Shane Burgos fight was on the main card at Madison Square Garden. So obviously, like, I got to work my name up, and I was coming off that loss to Burgos, but being on like the early prelims, I was like, come on, man, like they know I'm gonna have a crazy exciting fight, and I knew it was gonna be a good fight. So after, yeah, I said, let's get back on the main card. And what I heard is this fight's gonna be the co-main event. So I don't know if that's set in stone. I don't know if they have options, if they're gonna take that from me. Either way, I got a feeling it's gonna be on the main card. It's Edson Barboza, Billy Q. Of course, it's gonna be a great fight. I'm still really eager to find out where the fight is going to be taking place at because we still don't really know. But to be on a card with Max Holloway, someone who I've watched forever, one of my favorite fighters, and now he's hopefully becoming one of my rivals soon, being at the top of the featherweight division. It's just a dream come true, and I'm super excited for this opportunity.
You brought up Max Holloway, and I was going to get to that eventually. I'll just ask you right now, like, is there a little piece of you that just watches a little film on both them guys just in case something were to happen? Would that be something that you would say, all right, man, I'll jump in?
Absolutely. That's, I mean, I think that goes for every fighter. When you see other guys in your division on the card, there's always that chance that something could happen. Opponents could switch, even if it's a week out or whatever. It could be a different guy, completely different. So I'm prepared for whatever. With watching film, I would have to watch some of Arnold Allen's films. I've seen a lot of his. I remember when he had his I think his breakout performance against Gilbert Melendez, and that's when I was like, oh wow, this guy's really good, and that's where when I started watching him. But with Max Holloway, I watched I think every single one of his fights. I got to see his fight against his second fight against Dustin Poirier live when it was in Atlanta, so I've seen him fight before, and I've watched pretty much all of his fights anyway. So that would be even more of a dream come true. But Edson Barboza can't be overlooked, and right now most of the film study is going towards Edson.
Tell us about how that film study is going so far. Edson Barbosa is a dynamic striker, man, and he can hit from all kinds of different angles. What was it like, when you finally found out that that's the guy you're going to face? And do you have to bring people in to kind of mimic the guy? I mean, I'm sure he's kind of hard to mimic, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was funny. It was when it got brought up. I was actually thinking about calling out Edson Barbosa before the Shane Burgos fight because that would be like the next stop up in line. Obviously, that fight didn't go my way, so I fought a little bit down the rankings a little bit, fighting Alex Hernandez, who is new to the division. Um, but yeah, the film study for it is I called him out after this fight, and now it's like, all right, he said yes. Now it's really now you really got to watch this film, and now I watched it a little bit differently because before it was just Edson Barbosa, a fighter who I've watched and been a fan of for years. Now it's this guy's gonna do this, gonna try to do this to you. You better be ready for it. What are you gonna do to stop this? And now it's a whole new ball game that I'm super excited for. And to answer your question about bringing people in, we got a few guys that can replicate him a little bit, but a lot of it's just what I need to do. And then, of course, I'm going to go cross train somewhere. I would really like to know where the fight's going to be first. Um, but there's a couple places that I want to go. I either want to go back to Long Island and New York and train with Matt Frivola and all those guys at Law MMA. Maybe go back to Vegas. Maybe cross train somewhere else. But I definitely want to get some different looks. I like to cross train at least once every training camp.
I know squids can swim. Is this squid going to take it into deep waters? Maybe feel Edson out a little bit in the beginning and bring that cardio to test?
Yeah, and that's something that I think I can talk about pretty openly, like what my game plan is. A lot of fighters like, oh, I don't want to tell you too much, but I think people that watch me know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to drag the fight out, wear you down, beat you wherever the fight goes, whether it's standing, whether we're wrestling, whether it's on the ground. Obviously, going against a guy like Edson Barbosa, it wouldn't be smart just to stand and bang with him and see him get knocked out first. So I'm definitely going to be trying to mix in everything I can to make it an ugly fight, a fight that I'm able to grind him down and wear him out, and look to get that finish, whether it's in the second round, the third round, even in the first round. That's what I'm bringing to the fight, and everyone knows that. So I can talk about it, and they know the bell rings, I'm going to be in his face, and I'm going to be pushing the fight the whole time.
Big time fights should generate big time results. Have you thought about what could come from a victory over Edson Barboza?
Absolutely, yeah. This is something that I've. These are the type of fights that I dreamed of when I got into the sport. I was a fan of the top guys, the best strikers in the world, the best fighters in the world, guys who can push that pace, win big fights. After this fight, you look at my resume, especially if I can go get a big highlight reel finish. Man, these finishes are starting to add up. I'm 4-0 in fights in the UFC that have ended. So that's basically the universe telling me that's what I need to do to win this fight and to get to that next level, make it 5-0 in those fights. And yeah, this is my run right now. I just turned 34 a couple days before my last fight. So 34, this is my prime. So right now, fighting a guy in the top 15, and then get a big win, get ready to call someone out that's a few spots above that, do that again, and end the year fighting in those huge fights, top 5, top 6 type situations.
So, Billy, if you were to get a text message right now that said, "All right, man, we heard you talking about location, you can't wait. You tell us, where do you want this fight? Give me like two spots you think that would really work."
All right, so my top choices, I've already thought about this. My top choice would be Buffalo, where I grew up. I actually just went there. I went to a Disney on Ice. Me and my brother brought our kids there. Um, so that's at like the Sabres Arena, downtown Buffalo, number one choice. My number two choice is where I live right now, Tampa, Florida. Both places they haven't been to in a while. They haven't been to Buffalo, I think, in like 6 or 7 years. Um, Tampa would be choice number two. And I've heard a few people talk about Boston. And I've talked to a couple people. My brother's actually told me that it's going to be Marathon Monday, and the Boston Marathon's going to be run there that weekend. So that would be awesome. I think that'd be my third choice. Now would be Boston. My wife has some family there. I've always had a great time going to Boston. I've been there a bunch of times. So Boston would be one of those choices that would be really a really cool spot to fight at, because I've never fought there before, and it would just be one of those new cool spots.
If you get it in Buffalo, have you already thought about what jersey you're going to be wearing? What Bills jersey?
Oh man, I don't. I've been telling people. So obviously, I'm a diehard Bills fan, and we came up short. I went home to the game. I went home for the game last weekend against the Bengals where they lost. But right now, I told you, well, it's hockey season right now. I might wear a Buffalo Sabres jersey because they've had a bunch of really bad years, and this year now it seems like they got a bunch of young players, and they're starting to make games really interesting and exciting. So right now it's kind of Sabres season, but who knows? Maybe I'm always going to be a Josh Allen guy, Stephon Diggs. All those guys, the Bills defense. There's so many guys that I could pick. So there's a long list.
All right. And then lastly, I do want you to plug your OnlyFans. And I'll make it clear here, he's not naked or anything like that. It's content that he's doing. Can you tell us about, if people go on your OnlyFans, what can they see? Like what are some cool things that you do on there?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. I love OnlyFans. Is they're one of my sponsors. They basically pay me some money to use their network as a platform, just like any other social media, just like an Instagram, just like Facebook. And I'm trying to put stuff out there that I wouldn't necessarily put on like my regular social media stuff, like a bunch of behind the scenes stuff, a bunch of behind the scenes of my fight camps, of my fight weeks, things that I just don't want everyone to see. But if you subscribe to me, which is completely free, that's the type of stuff you're going to see. And now I'm doing technique of the week, where I'm picking I'm picking a technique that worked for me in one of my fights, and I'm basically just breaking it down and showing why it worked for me, how I set it up, and I've gotten a lot of good responses from that. People want to see more of that fight, but it's all behind the scenes, so I use that platform for all that stuff that I wouldn't necessarily show on main social media, but I can show on OnlyFans. And obviously, I'm not showing any like weird sexualized stuff. It's all like training and fighting and that kind of stuff. Some people are disappointed, but that's not what I'm getting into it for.
And yours is free, right?
It's completely free. So OnlyFans paid me to get on the platform, and I do have the option to charge for certain things. I was joking with them that I would get a bunch of my amateurs to fight each other and have like an underground fight ring.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know the legality of that. I gotta get back with my lawyers if
Mhm.
I could do that. But in until then, I'm just gonna keep putting all my behind the scenes stuff for this training camp starting. It's only gonna be on OnlyFans. So the Quarantillo Barboza training fight week and the training camp leading up to it is all gonna be on my OnlyFans.
All right. Well, you mentioned it. Gorgeous George is not here. When the cat's away, the mice play. I
Yep.
teased you here. The letter Q. Remember Jeopardy?
I do remember Jeopardy. Yep.
Things that start with the letter Q. You ready?
Oh no. Okay.
I'm gonna make them easy for you. But here's the thing: if you win, all right, I will do something cool for you. I won't tell you what it is. It'll be a surprise. And if you lose, you lose. Hey, you played the
Okay.
game, right? All
Okay.
right. Here's the first one. It represents 25 cents in American currency.
Oh man. Wait. Oh, a quarter.
Yep, you got it. All right.
Oh, I thought that was a trick question. Oh man, I gotta settle in. I was like, wait a
Okay.
minute.
It's it's sand that you step in and you immediately start to sink.
Quicksand.
Yeah. I know he's not doing the what is quicksand. There's not really
Oh, okay.
Jeopardy.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
you're
Yeah.
still passing. Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, these are all examples of.
Quarterbacks.
You got it.
All right. Here we
Old
go.
ladies like to knit these blankets.
Quilts. Shout out to
He's a
my grandma. Rest in peace. But she used to make some banging quilts.
Yeah, that's pretty
Oh
dope.
yeah, we still got a bunch of her blankets and stuff. It's really cool.
You got to make a quilt of every guy you've beaten in the UFC.
That's the thing. I'm not the quilt maker. My grandma
Mhm.
was. Yeah, but I don't make quilts. I don't even. My wife really doesn't want to get into it either. I think it's like one of those. I don't know if there's gonna be too many quilt makers moving forward.
All right, bud. Well, thanks for spending some time here on MMA Junkie Radio. We appreciate it. Edson Barboza is a banger of a fight. We're really happy for you, man. Thank you for the time, Billy Q.
I appreciate it, guys. Take care.